Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, and this is the Phlster ARC. One of the things I absolutely love is when somebody's had an idea and they've had an idea for a very long time, and maybe they've made a way or found a way to make it work on their own, but they're finally able to put it into production to get it out to other people instead of having to build it piecemeal or with materials that are available, machinery is available, tools are available. And the Phlster ARC is definitely an example of that. Steve Fisher of Sentinel Concepts has been modifying the control switches on his Surefires for years. When he got together with John over at Phlster, they actually came up with a design for a purpose-built, enhanced paddle system for the Surefire X300U. I'm a huge Surefire user. There's no secret there. I've also used Streamlights in the past. I like the Streamlight rocker. I like the paddle design itself. But I've always kind of leaned towards the Surefire operation system, and of course their momentary only, if you're going to use momentary only, is much more intuitive than that you'd find on the Streamlight. The problem with the Surefire X300U, my personal opinion, has always been the switches are too short. If you've got large hands, it may not be as much of a problem, but I think Steve's a good example of that. Steve's a big guy, Steve's got big catcher mitt hands, and even he wants a larger and longer paddle for the activation of his weapon light. Why is this a big deal? Well, I've got to be able to activate the weapon light. Being able to press in for momentary only with a slightly longer switch, or being able to rock constant on with a switch that has a much more aggressive texture to it and a larger surface area is going to be more beneficial versus those smaller paddle slash pushes that are available on the traditional X300U. Doesn't mean they don't work. I've been using them for years myself. However, with the ARC, I have a little bit more real estate to work with. So for traditional two-handed shooting, I can rock on, rock off with my trigger finger if I choose to. However, to me personally, that's a method I'm only going to use in a certain situation, which I'll get to. But I can also rock on and rock off much easier, I should say, with my support hand. So I'm going to go constant on to engage a threat or shoot a target. I mean, let's be honest, most of the time I'm just going to be shooting steel or shooting paper. But for low light purposes, for searching for known threats, stuff like that, having that more pronounced paddle, especially if you wear gloves, is going to be a great benefit. Now, the ARC is going to come in two sizes with two different textures. You've got two XL paddles, one's textured, one isn't. The non-textured paddles are nice and long, they're extra large, and I consider these more for concealed carry, especially if you carry appendix, because the more aggressively textured ones, especially the XL size, they can get you a little bit coming out of the holster, depending on your body type and your exact carry position. Hip carry would probably be a factor as well, and they may catch on an undergarment if you wear a secondary shirt underneath your t-shirt or your button-up or something like that. It's something you want to be aware of. For duty carry, the XL are going to be excellent. Another huge factor for this, especially, we're talking about the Surefire X300U, is for one-handed operation of the weapon light. Some people don't like to manipulate the weapon light with their trigger finger, which I can understand from a safety factor. That finger's hovering right over that trigger guard, not necessarily somewhere we want to put it. However, the XL paddles give you a ledge, a purposeful ledge to index to for weapon light operation, and you have to consciously bend the finger back and then be able to insert it into the trigger well to touch the trigger. Why is one-handed operation of the weapon light advantageous? Well, if you think about it, not even from a duty perspective, think about it from a home defense perspective, or just anyone who has children. If I've got to scoop up or maintain a grip on my child's hand, I can still operate the weapon light with that one hand, and I'm not encumbering or having to release the child or set the child down to do stuff like this. And I don't have to rely on momentary only. I can rock on, do whatever I need to do with the gun. My other hand can be free to complete whatever task it needs, and then I can rock it off. Another thing that's advantageous about being able to manipulate from the index finger is, for those of you that carry a rifle, patrol rifle, duty rifle, or you find yourself just in training, practice, or home defense situations with a rifle and a handgun, and a transition or something like that needs to take place, going from low light rifle to low light handgun is much more simplified on the draw stroke. So I'm transitioning, I get the firearm out, it's much easier to roll it on, rock it off, especially if I'm wearing gloves. For me, a significant benefit to this, to me, is chamber condition checks coming back to the rifle. If I've drawn my handgun, maybe I shot, maybe I didn't need it, I'll go ahead and service the handgun as it needs to be serviced. Once I'm getting ready to come back to my rifle, I can use the weapon light to check the chamber condition if there's no ambient lighting present that's going to allow me to see what actually went wrong with my rifle, whether it's added ammo, malfunction, whatever. So I can get a grip on that rifle, bring it back up, use the weapon light to check the chamber condition, holster the firearm up, put the rifle back into service, good to go. And everything can be manipulated from that index finger versus trying to use your thumb or trying to reach those smaller, generally smaller switches that come on the X300U. Is this a product for everybody? Probably not. Especially if you don't use Surefire, obviously. There's no ARC available for other weapon lights currently. However, Surefire is a very popular light for a reason. It's durable, it's venerable, it's got a good reputation, and it has really good performance considering other comparable lights that are currently on the market with their current offering of lumen/candela output and other features. Surefire is definitely one of the most popular lights when it comes to law enforcement, comes to military use for handguns, which is a smaller category but still ever present. And the closer you get to professional use of firearms, the more likely people are to wear gloves, which is where this thing definitely shines. However, even for everyday concealed carry, I mean, this is my everyday carry gun, and I've got the XL non-textured on it, and that's exactly what's staying on there. Because the manipulation advantages I get from this outweigh any potential negatives, and really I can't think of any negatives whatsoever. Now, when I installed these, I did it purposefully, meaning I took the old paddles off, and then when I installed the new paddles, I used a small amount of thread locker. It's not glue. It is thread locker, but it still hardens and it still provides a bonding between two surfaces. So there is a tiny degree of thread locker in there to make sure these things don't pop off. What are the chances of them popping off? Pretty slim. However, I've had the OEM paddles pop off when they got caught on something, or they're just, who knows. Sometimes you don't necessarily know why something happened. It's just like, okay, there was a paddle there 1 minute, the next minute it's gone. And every now and then in a class I see a guy who's like, hey, my little paddle's gone, where is it? You're not going to find it. It's kind of like losing your front sight on the range. So putting a little bit of adhesive in there is not a bad idea. And when I say a little bit, I mean like a thin film. And if you needed to remove it, or you're like, okay, I don't like the XL paddles, I want to put on the large size, or I want to put on the textured or the untextured, or if you're switching anything out, hit it with a heat gun or even a hair dryer for a little while to heat it up. It should pull right off with a minimal amount of prying. You don't want to force it because then you're going to bend the control surface, and that is definitely not a good thing. So if you're like me and you've always been somewhat frustrated with the size of the paddle/switches that are available on the X300U, Phlster ARC, thanks to Steve Fisher at Sentinel Concepts, has definitely come up with a great solution that's cost effective. It's not going to be super expensive. It's easy to install, no big deal, and it's going to definitely increase your ability to manage your weapon mounted light. I'm Aaron Cowan with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.